Welcome to the final day in the 12 Days of Christmas Cards series. Today is day 12, and for the project, it will be a shaker card using the Lawn Fawn Snow Cool stamp set to create what I am calling the Let It Snow shaker. So to start off with, I have got a piece of light blue cardstock that is cut to an A2 size, along with a snowbank that I kind of randomly cut out of some white cardstock. And on the leftover piece of cardstock, I will be stamping my critters. So I've got the two penguins, the snow penguin, his hat, and his bow tie. And I will also do the igloo on this as well, although you won't actually see me do that, but you will see me color it. Now, because I will be doing some Copic coloring, I am stamping all of these elements in Memento Tuxedo black ink, which is a great ink and does not react with alcohol markers, and it actually works well with Zig markers, which are water-based markers as well, in case you didn't know that. So to finish off my background, I am going to emboss these falling snow stamp that comes in the set with some white embossing powder in order to create sort of a snowy backdrop for my shaker. So to do that, I am I'm inking the stamp with VersaMark ink, and then I'm coating it in white embossing powder. Then I'm going to stamp it again and coat it again, and then heat set it with my embossing gun. Now, VersaMark is a clear ink, so it's very difficult to tell where you have stamped it. So that's why I stamped it first, then coated it with the embossing powder, then stamped it again and coated it again. Hopefully that makes sense. So now I'm going to be heat embossing it with my gun. And this is a great color for beginners because, like metallics, it goes from sort of a clear powdery matte to a bright white, and you can tell when it is completed. So it's a good color to start with. For coloring, I am using, as I mentioned, my Copic markers. And for the snowy, icy areas, which includes the igloo, the snow penguin, and the lake that I draw onto my snowbank portion, I'm using what might be a little bit of an unusual color combination. I am using C00, B00, and BG15. So I start off with the C00, which is a very light cool gray. Then I am adding on some shadows with the B00, which is a very light blue. And then I'm going to deepen the shadows with the BG15. And the BG15 is pretty bright. It's a pretty bright aqua, and it doesn't blend super well with the B00 because they're fairly far apart on the value scale. But the C00 actually helps with that. So I'm blending it here with the B00 to get somewhat of a blend. And then when I go back to the C00 and blend it together, it really sort of comes together and makes more sense. But it is nonetheless a fairly vibrant color choice for this sort of ice and snow effect. And that was purposeful because this card is so whimsical that I wanted to go with some somewhat bright colors for the various elements. So my penguins, as you can see, are sort of a purpley gray. So for the penguins, I used V15, BV08, and C7. So that's two violet purples and one cool gray. And it is the dark C7 that kind of makes it all look more black, but it's the the V15 that really blends it all together and makes that sort of purpley black work pretty well. So for the snow penguin, I'm using the same color combination that I used on the igloo to give him that sort of aqua-y, cool, icy look. And then for his carrot nose, I will be using YR04 and YR07 to just add a little bit of shading. For the hat on the one penguin, I am using R17, R27, and R59. I base coat with R17, add some shadows with R27, deepen the shadows with R59, and then blend it back out with R27 and R17. For the earmuffs, I only used two colors. I used YG23 and YG17. And now for the little penguins' feet and their noses, I went with Y17 and YR04. I wanted them to be a little more yellow than the carrot nose on the snowman. So I'm using that yellow instead of an orange for their feet and their noses. For the top hat, I went with warm grays, so I have a W6 and then shaded with W7, and then later I add in just a tiny bit of C7 to just darken down those shadows. For the band, I'm using V15 and BV08, which are the same purples I used on the penguin bodies to kind of bring the colors together. And then to shadow in the penguin stomachs and faces, I use C00, C3, tiny bit of C7, and then some RV21 to add on those pink cheeks that I then sort of smoothed out with the C00. Again, for the lake, I am using the same color combination that I used on the snow penguin and the igloo. So I actually start off with B00 in this case, then add in C00, and then finally the BG15 to give it that sort of more vibrant aqua-y edge right along the edge of the ice there. And this kind of brought the colors together with the crittery elements. And I will fussy cut all the critters out and place them onto the snowbank to create the snow scene for the shaker card. So for assembly, I have created this frame. It's 3/8 of an inch wide and it's the same size as an A2 card front. I only want the shaker portion on the top half of the card. So I'm going to adhere the snowbank down to the bottom half first, and then I'll be adhering the acetate on top of that. Now I have some double-sided tape stuck on the back of the frame already, so I'm going to use that to adhere down the snowbank and get that in place. And then I'm going to add some additional double stick tape to the back of the snowbank so I can adhere the acetate down. And I am just trying to get that corner really well sealed so that the acetate is all the way down and the shaker elements that I will add later won't have any opportunity to escape or get out. So I'm just sealing that in place really, really well. And now that the front of the card is, the bases are complete, I'm going to add on the foam tape. The foam tape is what is going to create this shaker. So I tend to use some kind of thick foam tape and then just cut it down as needed. It's a little less expensive, so that's why I do that. And it's not a problem to just trim it down to fit skinnier elements. And again, I am trying to seal up all of the corners between the foam, especially behind the acetate, because that's where the shaker is going to be. And again, you don't want your shaker elements to have any opportunity to escape. And if you have any gaps in your foam tape, they will find a way out. And since I am using micro beads, which are really, really tiny, they can get through the tiniest little gaps. So I'm making sure that I have sealed all the edges in the shaker portion. And now that it's complete, I've got 2 layers on there all the way down the card. I'm going to adhere down my little critters to the front. So I'm using a glue stick, and once I get that first penguin on, I realize that the guys kind of look like they're floating randomly on the snow. So I decided I need to add some little shadows. So I used the C00 and the C3 to just blend some shadows underneath each of the objects so that they look like they are sitting on ground as opposed to floating above some snow. I again use my glue stick to stick all these elements down. I like the glue stick because I know it will adhere all of the little element down, but it will also adhere both to the cardstock as well as the acetate. And since there are several components that are covering both cardstock and acetate, I wanted to make sure they would all stick well. For my greeting, I'm using Let It Snow, also from the Snow Cool stamp set. I'm stamping Let It in archival jet black ink onto vellum. And then I'm going to heat emboss the word snow. So I'm going to be stamping that in VersaMark ink, coating that in silver embossing powder, and then heat setting it with my heat gun again. I do use the archival ink for the Let It portion because vellum can be a little bit tricky to stamp on and not have your ink smear. So I know archival won't do that, and so hence why I use that. To adhere down the vellum, I didn't want my adhesive to show through the back, so I am using a Zig glue pen and just dotting some adhesive very lightly with little tiny dots behind the words, and then I will be adhering that to the acetate panel on the front, getting a really good seal going. And now I am going to use some baby powder to kill any adhesive on the sides of the foam tape as well as the static that may have accumulated on the acetate. I do this because I'm using microbeads, which are super tiny, and I don't want them to stick to the edges. And then I'm also going to use a little bit of extra fine glitter and glitter likes to stick to the acetate, so that's why I'm using the baby powder to like get the static off the acetate before I add the glitter. Otherwise you can just get a mess of glitter covering your acetate and it kind of ruins the whole thing. So that's a nice trick if you ever have that kind of problem with your shaker elements. So I've got all my adhesive or like covers off my adhesive. I've cleaned off the microbeads off the adhesive tape where it's sticking. They come off pretty easily. They don't stick too badly. And now I am going to seal the whole thing up using my Heat Emboss snowy background, the light blue sky that we did earlier. So that is the completed shaker card front, but of course I have to add a few extra elements. So I take my Spectrum Noir sparkle marker and add some sparkle to the snowy elements. And then I take my black glaze pen and emphasize the snow penguin's eyes. And that is the completed project for today. I like how, and you'll see in this photo coming up, how the shaker, when it's all down, kind of creates a snowbank behind the red penguin. And that was kind of accidental on my part, but that's what you get with the shaker being only on the upper half of the card. So pretty cute, if I do say so myself. If you like whimsical and sort of informal holiday cards, I think this is a great one. You should definitely check out the Lawn Fawn Snow Cool stamp set. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have been with me for all 12 days of my Christmas card series. If you've missed any of them, there are links in the video description below to each of the days. There is also a link to a complete supply list for this project. I do contribute to YouTube regularly, and so if you have enjoyed this, I would be absolutely thrilled if you'd subscribe to my channel and come back for more. Have a fabulous holiday season. Thank you.